Hey, what's up, everybody? You will probably see this in post, but I'm setting things up now, and I'm just going to publish it now. We can hang out a little early if you guys get here. So this is just me talking. I just got it. I mean, we moved fairly recently, so if you have not seen the setup yet, this is the setup. I am just going to grab this URL and drop into Discord, so those of you that don't always see the emails come through, we'll see it here. There we go. So I'm just hanging out. As soon as Brian shows up, I will professionally switch the screen to our little dual screen setup. But until then, oh, I should also open up YouTube and go to the actual thing to see what everyone's saying. Click, drop what everyone's, and got one person watching now. I think that's me. Always wants to give me the top chat. I want live chat. Everybody. Chat. That off. Then, as soon as one or more of you guys show up, we are good to go. But until that time, I am out. Wait for Brian to show up. Do my thing. So yeah, any questions you guys think of, let me know. The goal is to take all of these and put these up on just as a podcast, because it'd be really simple to do, just to like skin it all down, and we don't have to do a lot of editing and things like that. So that would be really nice. So should not be too much of a problem. This. Yes. Yeah, so let me think if there's anything I can tell you guys about. Yeah, we're in, one big thing I did, I don't know how to do it for the patron side of things. Oh, here we go. Here's Brian. We're going to fade on in. Hey, Brian.
Hey, what's up? What? What is it?
I was singing.
Oh.
My bad.
I guess I need a camera or something, huh?
You do you, man. You do you. I don't want to tell you how to live. There you go. Oh, I got the green screen propped already. Oh, no.
Good grief, what's going on over there?
Brian's family's in trouble. I don't know how long we have him for.
Quit huffing the Shakeology.
Hey, what's up, Frank? I find the table interesting. I just jumped in, man. I was just sitting there and going like, I'm just gonna start trying things out.
Wait, I want to see stuff. All right, Mo, let me know when you're about to run the blender. I thought we'd had a minute, so I told.
I'm sorry.
Blend something. It's cool.
I'm intrigued by it looks like a fake table behind you.
It's a real table.
It's just the way it's like it sits on top. Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah, it's I moved my whole desk situation around.
Yeah.
And so
you know what I was thinking, like, we should record these and put them up as podcasts, and
maybe not.
We'll do the next one. The next one.
It's gonna be a minute. We have like what we did. We bought an airplane turbine.
Yeah.
That we're using.
Once the blending is done, can you turn your mic up?
I'm gonna move it closer to my face.
Oh,
how about that?
That's even better. Oh man.
I could. Okay, hang on. I want to see chats. Where is
so
this?
far it's Frank barking and then saying yo.
Frank. It never seems as long when you're not live on a stream.
Yeah, I didn't know that you were doing the streams out of your kitchen.
Essentially, yeah.
Hey!
Hey. Oh, everybody.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
You're live already. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Cool. My bad.
You couldn't hear me over the blender. Nope.
You know what I will do while we wait? I will go ahead and play the wonderful theme song. Usually, we would have a white screen and do the little thing, but I've on my new computer and stuff I'm all setting up. I haven't had to, so here we go.
'Cause we're walking worlds and we're talking worlds with Pedro. Yeah, we're walking worlds and we're talking worlds with Pedro. Brian's here too, he's here to ask questions for you about D&D or really anything. 'Cause we're walking worlds and we're talking worlds with Pedro. I do the show! Let's get on to the show! Here we go! Faded.
So good. All right.
All right. Yeah, if you could turn yourself up a little bit. It's a little hard for me to hear, at least.
I don't know. I'm sure I can. I'm sure that I can. I haven't used Zoom in a while on my computer. I had to re-download it actually.
For me?
I found up. No, don't automatically adjust the volume.
Oh,
Don't judge. There we go. All right.
That's a lot better.
All right.
Well,
All right.
welcome to World Talkers. My name is Pedro. I am the GM and creator of World Walkers, and with me is...
Hi, I'm Brian. Where's my camera? Hi, I'm Brian. of Wonderful Comics. I'm serious. I set up my desk differently, and I moved my camera. I used to have it over here, and now it's over here, and it's been an adjustment period.
Hey, Johnny. I am that great. It's just harder to see with the lighting the way it is. Oh man. So, Brian, how you been?
I've been okay.
Been good?
How are you doing?
I'm all right. Busy. I actually, up until I had to hit play, I was editing next week's side adventure. So
Yay.
I'm like 35, 40 minutes into it already.
It's not the main quest. It's just a side adventure
from what I hear. But yeah, so we got a couple questions in. I don't know if you have any of your own you're kind of sitting on. Or...
I have some, yeah. I pulled them up. I wrote questions down. I also have questions from some people.
Cool. Well, I will turn it over to you then.
Oh, well, if you have questions already, I mean, that's fine too. So let's see.
It's been a while.
It has been a while. That's been a while. I think the last time we talked was just after Megan and Olivia's travel into the heart of the forest.
Yeah.
And so we had pretty much just talked about that.
Yeah.
But then, everybody was going through the woods. We met an extra turtle minus the shell. Well, plus the shell. They kept trying to give the
different.
They kept trying to give the shell back. Like some sort of serial killer.
Put it on your face.
I want to see you wear it.
This is your makeup. Put it on yourself.
So I had a question. How ready were you for them to let your NPC turtle go? Can you please just let him live his life?
Oh man, I'll tell you that I didn't know what to expect. Like I knew I had this kind of horrific scene in my head of when they would discover Kurtzel, and I just didn't anticipate the fires raging for so long, and I didn't anticipate Roberto's obsession with the shell.
Yeah,
that was a twist.
Yeah,
that was a twist. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't ready for that. And I actually had a lot of fun editing in the fire because there was a point where I'm like, they still haven't attacked the fire. So I just put the fire in and I just kept like overlapping, just putting that file in over and over and again. Like, I'll just turn it off when they get to the fire. And it's like, it was a long time. I had a lot of fire files.
Yeah, there was a lot of fire going. Yeah, it didn't seem like they really were understanding that there was fire happening.
It's easy to forget because you're not like sitting there in the scene. but
Right.
it plays comedically very well. And Johnny, it puts the lotion in the basket. Or puts the lotion in the skin on the skin. Oh man. But yeah, so crazy things. Yeah, they had that happen. They I think since last time we talked, we didn't they met Tafiki.
Yeah.
Didn't really engage with him too much. Tompkins gave away his ring since we last talked, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of stuff's happened.
Yeah, there really has been.
Yeah.
No one seems too much to care about Paddington.
I think Brummelstone has expressed his
That's true. Brummelstone's the only one. It really like cares. Everybody else is like, oh, Forest Hill, well, sucks to be Paddington.
Sounds rough.
Oh man, they're so funny though. So yeah, and then they finally made it to a town. Well, wait. So where did Tin go?
I don't know what Megan did in real life, but Tin just took the long way around the forest. Was our terrible excuse.
Fair enough. Sometimes it's okay to just have a. She's not here.
It's something that I try to do. Is when did we get a? When did you, that's awesome. That image up there in the top left. When did she get a cloak?
Yes, that's my follow-up question to this question.
No, but I don't like spending. I know some people really want to dive deep in their games about, well, where did the person go? How does it make sense they're not there anymore? Who cares? Like, it's,
right.
I think it's cool for those that really want to jump in on it, but I just don't like spending a lot of time. You know, when we miss, I don't, especially because the more you add it into the narrative, the more you almost kind of punish the player's story. Or somebody having like a legitimate reason to miss the game, like, hey, I'm really sorry, something came up. I'm like, oh god, well, a ring in my hands to fit the. Just go, man.
Great.
Yeah. So.
so did she just come back with a cloak on her own, or is that a thing?
No, it's the cloak of flying. It's the wings of flying. She wears like a cloak.
Oh,
but she doesn't really talk about it.
We never talked about it, and then she's like, I have a cloak, and I was like, would you? That is funny. Yes, the cloak of flying. She's had it for a while.
Yeah, but she doesn't really ever address it. And then one day she's like, because I have a cloak. I totally have a cloak. Totally cloak. And I don't remember why. Like why something became focused, but I think she had realized that she was one step away from becoming like a true Texan, both in and out of game. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
So let's see. I'm going to jump straight to the last episode, the Patreon episode. So if you haven't listened.
Everyone that watches is Patreon, so yeah.
I know, but if they haven't listened, then, you know.
I actually put up on the top, it says spoilers for episode 68, Bards Being Bards.
All right, good.
Yeah.
So how important to this story is the story that the bards were telling in this episode?
So the Guardian is a legendary figure in Rolanus. They are the first and last defense for like the major going on. So it's like, I'm trying to think of like I don't want to call him Gandalf because like that there's a lot of weight to that. But I mean like the Guardian is the biggest deal in Rolanus. So, like I'm trying to in learning about the Guardian, I'm trying to allude that like that information may come into play later. So yeah, it's a setup. It's definitely like trying to allude and paint the picture of the world. I think that's something that the group struggles with right now, is that they're trying to figure out how much of Rolanus is fun stories getting in their way versus how much of Rolanus's actions are giving them their story. And I don't know that they've really they seem to be wrestling with that a lot recently.
Mm.
Yeah, like Vasa very much seems to not enjoy the way that Rolanus has been interacting with them. As they slowly discover more and more how much of a how active Rolanus can be in their story and in their lives, I think they do really struggle with trying to figure out when it's their story and when it's somebody else's story.
True. I guess that's kind of what I was thinking in that in thinking about that story was that they all seem to space out during it, which is fine. We've all been to that play, and we've all had that moment where we're like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
there's
it's
a dead,
yeah.
there's a
With
dead person now.
Vasa and Ertleby, I think I can't remember now. I know that Vasa fades out on it. Brummelstone becomes more invested. You don't hear too much
Right.
from Roberto, but I will be really upfront that we have mic issues with Roberto for a couple episodes, and
Yeah.
so sometimes he is saying something, and you just can't hear it. So I have to edit the podcast because
I'll never know.
he had a bad cable. So like if I have to listen to the like when I notice he's not talking for a while, I have to listen to the master and go like,
geez.
is he in there? That wasn't anything of consequence. I just that's why sometimes his audio changes because he'll be talking and it'll sound one quality and then it'll shift to another quality. That's when I had to grab the master audio out and go like, you need to hear what he said this time.
What are you doing over there, dog? Sorry.
Sorry.
No, dog found the noisiest thing to sit down on. So I guess since you have two games going in Rolanus right now, like, can you give me and us a non-dramatic recap of the story of the Guardian? Or is that integral in, like?
No, I don't mind. So the gist is that the Guardian of Rolanus is the one that pretty much steps in when the world itself is at stake, and the Guardian is sort of a mantle that gets passed down from person to person, and when somebody's story is over, that's when it's time for the mantle to pass. And the mantle in this case is actually the gauntlet that holds the different elder spirit, these kind of what they're called elemental stones. And each one summons a different elder spirit, like this insanely like kind of like the ultimate version of an elemental. And what we kind of allude to in the most recent episode is that when she when in the story when an elemental is summoned, it's summoned from a brass dagger, and so that element's different. It's not coming out like that elemental is not like a fire, earth, wind, or water. It's something completely different. So I don't think that many people have figured out what the elements are, but I can tell you that, like, because you kind of brought up the other game, the patrons are playing in a Patreon exclusive game on Wednesday nights that you can. We're actually trying to figure out how best to show it to people. Like right now, we've kind of locked it down to the $10 tier, but we're starting to get more requests now to show it publicly. So we might shift it to that. But we have somebody in the game who is a summoner. They have an elemental stone, and they use it to summon a light elemental.
Oh, very cool.
So as of now, we've seen two different elementals between the two games. And there's no telling what the other elementals are on Rolanus.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
The current Guardian is I think in the story we it's revealed that he's like 100 years old. So he's way older than he should be. And his name is Zell, and he's a bit of a mystery because he has according to the story, I believe they say that he has purple hair and blue skin. They're not sure what race he's just this mysterious individual who kind of comes into it. Yeah, and then the bard that's kind of near the group is very angry because that's not the way it works out, according to her. And the fun fact is that Calliope is a retired player.
Right, I saw that in the Discord.
Yep. Yeah, so I ran like her and actually Frank got thrown back in time when their party got split up, and they were there for when Zell became the Guardian. So that's why she's like very angry and
so she knows.
Yeah, because it doesn't actually play out that way.
That's awesome. Like, yeah. So how does that kind of thing work out for you? Like when you know that other players know and other characters know things, like, do you like ever figure out a way to like express that? Do you like force it on them? Like, no, it didn't happen like this. I swear to God, look at it. Look at it.
No,
look at the history. I read a book.
Only if it's story appropriate. Like Calliope is a very rambunctious, loud, expressive character, so it made sense for her to be like, as a storyteller, she does not like watching it get toned the wrong way.
Right.
And you know, when the group first got to Rolanus, they were given multiple paths. They didn't have to take any one path. They could have traveled north to Corsetto, the kingdom of Corsetto,
right.
And that is where they would have ran into Calliope. But they decided to go south and search for Kellet instead. But like they still end up kind of crossing paths with Calliope.
Right. Very cool.
That's awesome. Sometimes I like just kind of almost keeping it to myself. I like having the story waiting, but I don't always try to force it. For Calliope, it just made sense. Like I didn't sit there deciding she was going to rage. It's just as we played, I was like, man, she'd be so mad about that. Like, yeah,
that's awesome. Well,
can I tell one other fun little?
Definitely.
When I was listening, when I was editing the podcast, it made me laugh because one of the World Walkers laments the idea that they would ever team up with a bard. They're like, oh, we do not need this in our team. But if you look, if you remember, she gives out D10 inspiration.
Yeah, that was pretty. That's a lot of inspiration.
Calliope's a pretty high level bard. So they're like, oh God, please not one of these. I was like, all right, cool. Never mind.
All right.
Yeah, you don't get. I think Bardic Inspiration hits D10 at 10th level. So she's at least 10th level.
So she's doing all right. You wouldn't mind having her on your team.
Guess not.
They do, even from day one, we've known how the team feels about bards. It's in the song. Which is hilarious since they're all storytellers. They're all bards in some respect in their real life. I did think that was funny though, because it does make sense for all of them to have this weird disengaged kind of feeling with the bards. Like,
well, it's kind of like a number of them can't draw either. They all made sure their characters were terrible artists.
Well, you got to play something that you don't know. That's funny. So, let's see. I'm going to jump forwards a little bit. Does Enzo understand that you're turning him into an evil character? Or, I mean, he's turning himself into one, but like, does he understand? Is that something that you're working with him, like sending him messages about? Or is
I feel like the story was
to
there
the things
for him
that are happening?
I feel like the story was there for him to pull whatever message he wanted out of there. Like, but yeah, that was definitely like it's almost like that's definitely like the passage is opening for him to go as dark as he wants to. Like, because again, Rolanus is a world of dramatics, and one thing that like the group is discovering as they go through Rolanus is how much Rolanus wants to be almost a part of their story. Like, kind of really kind of like going back and forth, seeing what's going to happen, and them again still struggling to figure out what's up with Rolanus, because the Wednesday group is playing the patron group. I don't know if you know, but people have kind of named the different groups now. So The World Walkers main cast is called, people call it the Dream Team. They call Wednesday night the Stream Team, and then the Tuesday night game is called the Steam Team because they're playing in COG.
That's actually really clever.
I know. I was like, oh man, because I tell you one thing I've always wanted. I want a name for fans, but as I understand it, fans are supposed to name themselves.
Brummel Bros.
Well, I mean, yeah, everyone has like their own individuals, but like, yeah, like I know there's what is the? I'm blanking out. There's a podcast,
Broadswords,
yeah, and their fan base is called the Broad Squad.
Broad Squad,
which I liked a lot. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Wesley wanted everyone to be the Walkie Talkies, and I just said no, and I'm glad because now we have World Talkers.
That's true. It would have fit in really cleanly. Dream Team is an excellent play on words, though,
isn't it? Yeah,
that's a good twofer right there. Well played. Well played, whoever came up with that.
But that's been kind of the fun interplay back and forth is that the Stream Team is playing essentially on the heels of the podcast because the World Walkers went into the forest. There's been some fires. They ran into the hobgoblins, but one of the things the World Walkers constantly struggle with is ever since they learned of the escalation of the nightmares because of the shard that they lost,
right?
They have a real hard time wanting to stay behind and engage in any of the side stories or things that happen. They have a real concern and a valid one that like they can't dilly-dally on this.
Right.
So at the same time, they've left the forest prematurely. They didn't resolve the situation there. And the Stream Team, when they discovered that narratively in their game, they were like, let's go south. We got to solve this. Like they're actually kind of like following in the wake of the World Walkers.
That's funny. That's awesome.
The Stream Team is inside the Underwood right now. That's what happened last night. Man. They're going all in.
I popped in for a minute, but I haven't caught up yet, and so I've been like, hang on a minute, I want to catch up.
Some lore dropped, some pretty decent info dropped in last night's episode, I think.
That's awesome.
Johnny says Enzo's Canadian, so he's going against his nature, but Roberto's always been a bit fishy. Kaiser Sose, if you think about it.
That's awesome. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, the other question I had was, so as a DM, you're constantly like finding moments, but I'm sure you knew ahead of time that Wes was not going to be there for a period of time, and so like, did you and he work together? You and him work together like about the orb thing, or was that something that like he did that narratively and you were like, send him a message and you're like, so your orb's gone?
No. I'll make sure I get this right, but my belief is that well, I'm trying to think how to put it. I don't want to spoil too much because the side adventure we'll definitely have a talk after this, but in essence, it was he knew that something like that was going to happen soon.
Yeah, fair enough.
Didn't know how it was going to play. He knew there was going to be a sort of catalyst for this side adventure.
Yeah,
but he didn't know how it was going to play, and so when that happened, I was like, "You're going to throw the orb in the portal?" And he's like, "Yeah, why?" And I was like, "Guess we're doing it now." Like.
Deuces, go ahead and log yourself out. You're not the rest of the game. You're out of here.
So that was all like it was fairly improv. Like there was obviously I knew we had that usually happens when one of the players has something they really want to explore, they kind of throw it at me and then I tell them be ready essentially. Like I'll work it into the story so that it comes that way it's still fun for them. So it doesn't. One thing I really, really concentrate on is the integrity of the game. I don't ever want to make it feel like this is not like this isn't like this is just the way I run games. I don't think it's a diss for any other podcast or actual play that does this, but I know, hey, what's up, Max? It's not just in any other podcast or actual play, but like I prefer to have it as organic as possible. I don't.
Right.
I want people to give me their story bits. I want them to tell me what they think, what's gonna happen. But I don't want to have it staged.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. Very cool. Seems like it worked out. Should be a very interesting side quest, and I'm looking forward to it. How many parts is it?
We'll see. I think it's gonna be at least 2. It's gonna be at least 2 because we recorded. I think we recorded about 5.5 hours worth of content, but I don't know how much of that is legit because there was a number of times where like somebody's audio went bad, so we had to sit there and fiddle with it. So it's probably gonna be at least a 2-parter. If it's 3, I'd be surprised.
Awesome.
But yeah,
looking forward to it then. That's awesome. So you said you had some questions?
Yeah. So over in the Patreon post, we had a really good one. Let me pull it up real quick from James, and James was very polite to try to like write it with a spoiler free, so it was nice. But he says, I don't know if you're trying to avoid spoilers from the recent episode, but I do have a magic question. Well, a question about magic. The question itself doesn't have any magical properties that I know of. It's my understanding that in standard D&D at least, magical foci and component pouches are pretty interchangeable. Would just a standard staff be enough for a certain someone to cast spells at the end of that last episode? So obviously he's talking about Brummelstone, and yeah, in most worlds, yeah, if you're using just an arcane focus or a component pouch, you swap out. Obrimos is different because the wizards of Obrimos use those orbs exclusively. Like that's very much like tied to their character. So yeah, it should be pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Not on Obrimos, just they very much use their orbs. Because
really
like
love
on Obrimos, a lot of like history and information, knowledge has been lost because that's the world of broken timelines. Their world's been shattered and rebuilt at least 9 times that scholars are aware of. So a lot of the knowledge, the spellcraft has been lost. And so when wizards learn new spells, they're not grabbing a book and going, of course, fireball. They're actually having to pour into their orbs and shift through timelines trying to find lost spells. So yeah, for Brummelstone, that's it. If he doesn't have the orb, he doesn't have anything. For most other wizards or spellcasters, yeah, they would just go and put together a new component pouch or find a new arcane focus or holy symbol if they were divine. Yeah.
Are the orbs made out of the crystals?
Out of the crystals?
Out of those time crystals?
That has not come up yet.
Man.
It's a pretty good
my brain.
It's a pretty good leap of logic, but the origin of the orbs has not been fully dived into yet.
We got to talk more about Brummelstone's balls here, you guys. Everybody.
And then I see in the chat, Max has, is there any canon real history in Obrimos? Feel free to elaborate on that question if I don't hit the mark on this. But yeah, I think if I broke it down real fast, the history of Obrimos basically is that there's an original timeline that no one knows of, no one's found, because what happened was that there were these 9 individuals, and they went out because their world was ruled by dragons, absolutely destroyed and corrupted by dragons. They were in a post-apocalyptic type world, and they did everything they could to rise up and destroy the dragons. And when they finally stopped the last dragon, that glass looks so funny. When they finally defeated the last dragon, they found in his hoard that he was holding this powerful artifact known as the Orb of Chronicus. And as they explored it, they discovered that their timeline didn't even exist. They're living in the wrong timeline. The dragons had long ago captured this orb and rebuilt the world the way they wanted it to. And they decided to bond together, come together, split the power amongst themselves, and let's rebuild time ourselves. Let's give the world the best shot it could have. And they did it. They just did it without dragons. They wiped dragons out. And they gave the world its best shot. And it was great for a long time. And I might get this out of order a little bit, but the way it works basically is that, like, when they did that, they gave Obrimos a real chance at a normal timeline. Eventually, what they found out was that the world started to fall into corruption and darkness. And what they didn't realize is that when the dragons had wiped out this race of creatures called the Mind Flayers, the Illithid. Without the dragons there, the Illithid corrupted all of civilization. And when they saw it, they said, oh my God, we have to stop this. Like, time is broken. Let's just restart it. We need to give time a fresh start. So they shattered their timeline and they started a new timeline, one without the Illithid. And that was fine. And it went pretty well up until people finally had the freedom to kind of explore their own essence, their own existence. And in that, they found religion. They started to discover deities. They started to, whether or not they created the deities because of their belief or vice versa, it's debate that all day. But God started to form on Obrimos. God started to come into existence, started to come forward, and the gods had risen up. And then once they became powerful enough, they were able to kind of look upstairs and notice that everything was still being controlled by that group with the Orb of Cornificus. And so they rose up and tried to take them out. And there was this huge battle, and eventually the gods sent messengers, like angels of sorts, to ask everyone to give them the faith they needed to become powerful enough to stop these manipulators behind the curtain. And when this group realized that that was going to happen, they just erased people. And the gods became husks that they cast off into the astral realm. And they were like, we've got to become a little more manipulative. And from there, that's where things get really dark, because then they decide to actively keep their hands in the manipulation of people. They're like, well, now we got to make sure they don't ever find ways to believe in these things. And what becomes apparent if you're kind of studying it from the outside with your bird's eye view, things are going to go bad at some point. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to them, they were like, oh man, this whole thing went wrong. But centuries and centuries went by before something terrible and earth kind of like, world shattering happened. Instead of letting it play, they kept trying to make it perfect. And by the time we get to a certain point in Obrimos' multi-history, they've become a group of people called the Chronos, and they manipulate and control all of time. Whenever they find stuff they don't like, they wipe them out. So they knock everything out. And that's two of the Chronos appear in the side adventure, The Travelers.
Right.
But if there is a canon real history in Obrimos, it's the fact that this group of people, the Chronos, manipulated time and reshattered history at least 9 different times. And it wasn't until a group of adventurers rose up and worked with some pretty powerful beings that they were able to defeat the Chronos. They cast the orb off somewhere secret. And so far, Obrimos has had a chance to develop its own timeline, but it's a collection of shattered timelines. Let's see real quick. Is there any? Are we ever going to see dragons in any chapter of World Walkers? I'm pretty much guaranteed. I'm just waiting for them to get to the right world.
Because there's dragons on Ralum, right? Or
yeah, on Menroth.
the Menroth. There
Yep.
it is. Sorry.
And then real quick, I'll answer this one too. Yeah, James got it. He's like, Tremessa jumped from that one to the next, safe in the gray. That's exactly it. They jumped into the gray, and they kind of jumped out of that craziness and kept themselves safe, because when the Chronos came, they wanted to eradicate them. And that was Vasa's securing their histories essentially in that crystal and keeping it safe is what allows Tremessa to kind of come back. And then the second part to that, James says, how much of that was in game? Was the Kronos a party? Yeah, the group had encountered a member of the Kronos years ago in real life, and they just happened to beat one of them, so they actually had to replace them. And then we did a big summer event with all my players where they tried to stop the Kronos, and they failed. And then the Kronos from then realized that the leader of the Kronos, this Kronos named Tempest, had decided it's never going to work. Like the world's never going to work out. Something's always going to go wrong. Time existence is a failed experiment. And so they traveled from world to world trying to knock out the worlds, essentially like knocking over the pillars of time, trying to find a core world that they believed held all of existence in place. Like one central core world that made everything else exist. And yeah, we ran a big, like, months-long campaign where the two groups who had found a way to disconnect from time hunted down the Kronos and killed them over the course of like 3 or 4 months. And then,
That's awesome.
So yeah,
that's awesome. That sounds really fun.
It was pretty good. It's pretty good.
Crossover,
it was pretty fun.
Crossover event.
Yeah. We had 2 groups. And we just played, like, each group played once a week, and it was just like they were each responsible for hunting certain ones down, and they had to get to a world and stop that Kronos from destroying it before he destroyed it. And if they failed, then and I was basically like, if they failed, I wouldn't have any more worlds left. So
how many worlds did you lose in that?
I didn't lose a lot.
Just a couple. Just a couple. Did they find a world that was the center?
They did. Great question.
I know I'm not going to get an answer.
No. The players in that game, the characters in that game basically know which world is the core world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so far all the players have kept it a secret. I don't think they've ever told anybody what they found out in that game. So
contact me. I'm here. You can email me at brian@theunderfold.com.
But I've taken elements of that
awesome.
long story and sprinkled it lightly throughout every game that I've run since we started World Walkers. So there's a sprinkle of it in the World Walkers COG stream game we did. There's a sprinkle of it in the World Walkers Rolanus game. There's a sprinkle of it in the Tuesday game. A sprinkle of it in the Menroth game. Like, there's always little tidbits to kind of hint at stuff, but.
Can you give us one of the tidbits?
No, because it'll all come crumbling down.
Point us in the right direction to look for things.
If I think if you figure out one, it doesn't take long before the rest of the once you know what to look for, it's like, oh, all right. So
we need to start a wiki. The rest of us.
Someone did start a wiki actually, but I don't think they had the time to keep filling it in.
Yeah,
and I feel it's presumptuous of me to create a wiki. Like, someone was like, "Why don't you run it?" I'm like, I don't think if you're the creator, you're supposed to. I think that's just a website.
Yeah, no, we gotta. We gotta figure out. We need to get it on your website, but for other people to keep it up. Let's do it. We got this. We'll set it up. I can help. See, look at that. We've even got people saying that they'll keep it up.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Yeah. That's awesome. Did you have more questions?
Me? The other one that I had, I think it was from Raven. He was like, how, what was the question exactly, Raven? It was really funny. It was basically like, let me pull it up real quick. Exactly how much of a mess do the World Walkers leave behind them when they travel to the next world each time? Yeah, it's rough because that's their big struggle, I think, is they, with the clock ticking, with the ever-growing threat of the nightmares and not really understanding still what they are and when it's going to happen, they do not like to wait around. Like, I sometimes joke about their penchant for running, but they struggle a lot with, like, why get into these fights? Why get into unnecessary risks when our goal is only to get the shard and leave? Yeah.
You got a big world-ending goal in front of you.
But that's the struggle I think they have with Rolanus, is that there's when they got to Cog, that was a civilized world where there's airships. Let's just get where we gotta go, and there's this there was a lot of high stakes and stuff like that. But the travel, I think when the travel seems when there's a little bit of a texture to the travel, it's like, oh, we're not riding on horseback. Okay, let's do this. But like on Rolanus, they're just stuck on this world where they've got no means of traveling besides walking or horsing,
Right.
except for their secret weapon, which is Roborto.
Yeah. I loved that moment where you're like, okay, so are you leaving the forest? And you're done. Yeah. Like, oh, all right.
Rolanus is civilized. I'm sorry. I didn't have the right word for it. Raven called me out. Raven's like, maybe they could level up, I think is what he's saying.
That's the reason to fight all the fights.
Yeah, that's true. But no, yeah, it's been a fun back and forth watching how they manage all that. But yeah, just having to walk everywhere, I think, has been like kind of a bummer for them. Like I said, except for Roborto.
So is the story that the bards told in the last episode, was that the start of the nightmares?
Nope.
Huh?
No, that was just there's these things called ogre mages. There's these things called ogre mages. Oni is another name for them, and it was really just me kind of giving an origin in Rolanus. That's how the ogre mages come about.
I gotcha.
They're like one of my favorite types of creatures. So I thought it'd be a fun fight for them, and I've used them a number of times. They kidnap children, so like they have been enemies. They're kind of like reoccurring, dangerous enemies around the area of Southworth. They seem to keep coming back every so often or something, and the groups keep having to encounter them. So that's just part of that area's culture.
We heard about that when they first got to Rolanus.
Yeah.
That they had like just gotten some children back.
That's it. Yeah, it's all tied together.
This is so fun. Gosh darn it. This is why this show exists right here. So we can all sit here and go, oh, okay.
Well, that's like the thing is that the World Walkers don't listen to the podcast. I don't think a lot of them like to hear their own voice. So like
makes sense.
Yeah, they miss out on a lot of those connections too. Like when you're in the middle of the game, it's so hard like catch every little tidbit and thing like that,
Well, heck, I listened to this episode twice to prepare for this.
But yeah, so
this is Brummelstone gonna mac on the bard.
That was the best. Was like Vaz was like, "Don't seduce her." Oh man, how many
still
more
gonna
worlds?
fight Claiborne later.
Max asks, "How many more worlds are we going to see?" And I think that answer has basically been alluded to, so I don't feel like it's spoilers to say. Patch mentions in around like the late 50s episode, one of those episodes like 58, 59, whatever. He mentions that there are 7 shards. And if there's a shard in each world, then there should be 7 worlds they explore. So unless they die early, 7's a pretty decent number.
The infinity symbol. Oh man.
Yep.
We got to make all these old side stream episodes available in different formats.
Yeah, I've been trying to struggle with that, but like it's hard because I think there's a very, very how many worlds are there in total? Including the ones we lost?
Do it. Give us worlds we lost too. Give us a full number. What's the most worlds you've ever had?
I think 10 is the most. Yeah, but
so you haven't lost too many.
Nah, no, in the grand scheme, no. For as many times as I put the worlds on the line, no, haven't really lost that many.
Now, some of them are uninhabitable, essentially.
Well, depends on what you want. Depends who you are. I mean, Pasmos is great if you're a tiefling.
True.
That's the only world where they're playable on in my Cosmos. Raven's asking for a real number of like how many actual worlds there are. I'll tell you, so there's 7 for sure. I've hinted at the idea there might be 8, but I will tell you one X factor. For years, I used to run in the D&D Cosmos. So they used to go to Planescape and to Sigil, the City of Doors. I used to travel to Forgotten Realms, Faerun, Athos, Ravenloft. So those are all still kind of canon, but like when D&D switched to 5th edition, they seemed kind of, for my money, they seemed kind of nebulous as to what you could and couldn't use. The fear of copyright started hitting. So they've kind of been like, ooh, there you go, quietly pushed out because I just don't know if I'm supposed to use any of their stuff anymore. So like,
Totally fine.
in terms of my worlds, like the core worlds, the ones important to the story, there's it's been hinted that there's 8, but so far there's only been like 7 because of the shards.
Fine. My mic just fell down,
Yeah,
so I'm just gonna hold on to it. Cool.
But technically, they in the past, groups have traveled to the D&D based worlds too. So if you count them, there's probably more. So.
Well, the world of, we've talked about this before, but the world of Doors kind of makes a appearance under a different name, correct?
Yeah, essentially. With the City of Doors, I used to love running like big adventures centered inside the City of Doors, in Planescape Sigil. And when I didn't know if I could have that, I kind of made my version of it, which is Mercurius. So I took out the door to every world thing in there, but I kind of left some of the flavor in there, and yeah. Johnny.
That'd be good.
That'd be pretty funny. Are there any other questions that you got?
I have some from Data.
Yeah.
So let's see. He asked a couple of these in the live draw, so I don't want to do too many.
Sure.
Reduce. He has a lot about actually like just DMing.
Oh.
So let's see. He says trying different systems can help someone find other games to play, other ways to play games. What are some of the systems that you'd recommend, condemn, and prefer?
Yeah, so I think that one of them, so I met somebody. We have this cupcake shop in a city near us, and all they sell is tiny cupcakes. And that person had expressed that they wish they could play a game, but they didn't know how to jump into it. And I told them to make their friends run a game called Dread, because Dread is all about role playing and has almost no mechanics. In the game, in Dread, it's always it's basically a horror setting. I guess you could change it to other stuff, but it works best as horror. You're playing modern day horror, like zombie apocalypse, killer in the woods, whatever. And the way you decide the way you find out if you succeed, there's a Jenga tower in the middle of the table, and as long as you can successfully pull a block and place it up top, you succeed. If you fail and the tower falls, your character dies. It's not meant for long-term games. It's just for like one-shots. But I think that horror has a unique ability to kind of knock you off of your concerns. It kind of knocks you out of your comfort zone, and like you'll be role-playing pretty fast, pretty well when you're screaming at somebody not to fuck this up because you can't. Like, yeah. So that one's that one's pretty fun. I don't know that I have like go-to systems as much as I think that like if someone in your group is willing to run a game for you and they're willing to distill the rules to let you slide in easier, that's the right game. So like Hunter the Reckoning, which is behind me, the orange books, love that game. It's essentially I'm not saying Supernatural stole anything from them, but they came out first, and if you've watched Supernatural, you know how that game plays exactly. That game is really fun to jump into. I think that
I played the video game of that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great game. Savage Worlds we play on Tuesdays, and that one's really fun, and it's very simple. It's just like you just pick up one die, you roll it, and if you can beat the number 4, on that die, you succeed. And there's more rules to it if you want, but that's a very quick jump in and just play. So, yeah.
Max asks, "What's your favorite D&D adventure?"
For the published ones, I liked anything Ravenloft. I loved playing in Ravenloft, which is just like gothic horror. The Ravenloft is this thing called it's an island called the Domain of Dread, and its mists could reach out and pull you in, and they pulled in anybody they thought could be corrupted and brought into a darker place. And so some of the adventures that I bought and ran for that, or like campaign setting expansions I bought, those are really fun. But the most fun I've ever had is actually that Chronos campaign, because in terms of adventures that I've run, that was my favorite, because I got to explore every world and kind of show off the best of each world, and the players were able to kind of go back, and they've played throughout my worlds for years, so it was the local players, so it was fun for them to kind of go like, oh my god, I remember this, I remember that, you know. There's something fun with the World Walkers of them going like, oh, what's this, and seeing something for the first time. But the Chronos was really fun because they had already encountered a lot of that stuff, and they had to go back and face certain things. And I think that was the first time I made a group of players cry at the table. That was like a pretty big moment. Like one of the Chronos pulled off something terrible, and like after they beat it, after they killed that Chronos, they all fell apart and just cried at the table. And I was like, oh, that was intense. That was really fun.
What terrible thing did they pull off? We're never going to be able to hear it. So
they were in Cog, and they had gone into the flats, and they had found one of the Chronos. Her name was Solon. She was in the Travelers episode. And she's sitting there hanging out, and the village doesn't know who she is, so they're having fun. And she's playing with the kids, and when they come in there, they're like, their jaws drop, and like, oh god, no. And they had just kind of fallen in love with the village themselves, exploring in that.
Frank says it's too soon.
It was years ago. I gave them an essentially, I think it was like they had initiative, and if they won initiative, they could stop her from doing whatever she was going to do.
Oh no!
They had X amount of time to stop her, and they couldn't. They didn't get there in time. They didn't stop her in time, and she just kind of like snapped her fingers, and then they watched as everybody turned to sand. The kids turned to sand. Everything around them turned into sand. They watched them just, and they just didn't know. Like I think there was there was something about it. Like there was an uncertainty of like, if we had done this, would we have known? And I was like, I can't tell you. Like that's part of the game, is like, you don't know if you made the right choice. You just know what you have to live with. And I played the song from Kingdom Hearts, Simple and Clean. And if you don't know it, it's like a really nice, soft opening. And then there's like a beat, like a pause. And then the rest of the song. And so I timed it so that she made everyone, like as soon as the beat hit, everyone turned to sand. And so they fought to that slow, sad song.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of my favorite songs, Max. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, so that was the first time I had seen people like actually like kind of break down and cry at a game, and I was like, oh. So it made me feel like I could actually kind of do those kinds of stories too.
Right, like it was a thing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So they were really like World Walkers Alpha.
In a certain sense, yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Time Walkers, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see.
But yeah.
General questions about. He just says general questions about building homebrew and working on balancing them over the course of a campaign. It's not quite a question, but he has a question mark at the end.
Yeah. No, I think that if you go to Twitch, twitch.tv/D&D, if you're looking for 5e advice, there's something called Happy Hour, I think, with Mike Merles, and he designs stuff live on Twitch, and you can kind of see the design process that the D&D devs use. I I'm a firm believer in that, like, if you're trying to make something amazingly well balanced and awesome, I think it has to be balanced for your group. Like if you were trying to get advice on how to develop something for the public, that's a whole different set of questions. But really, you just need to see like if your group's happy with it. It doesn't matter if it fits in your game. It doesn't matter. There's so much like you as a GM have strengths and weaknesses. Like you suck when it comes to battling these kinds of player tactics, and you're awesome at tackling these kind of player tactics, and like so. Having a perfectly balanced subclass or character option that you can't handle doesn't matter because it's broken in your game. So you just have to like, you know, I find telepathy fucking broken in my games because every time I run telepathy based things in my game, there's one player who goes, I'm going to use this to drive every NPC mad because according to the rules, they don't know who's this is not the point of telepathy. Like, I don't have answers for that. Maybe other GMs do. So, like, I don't allow, like, when they have, like, we play this class and you get telepathy. No. Yeah. So, and then, do you mind if I jump to Raven's question real quick?
Go for it. Yeah.
How do you find groups if you are an introvert that suffers from anxiety? That one is tough. And I think that that's one big reason why game stores are still awesome. Because I think it can be scary to have to approach strangers and go like, hey, give me a game. Like, you know, things like that. That's rough. Yeah. But like if you can hit up a game store and just say, hey, are there any games running here? Can you put me down? That's how I set it up when I was working out of a game store. I said, here's my list. If people want to jump in, like let them sign up because it's a lot easier to go to the counter and kind of just hit up the person at the counter and go, hey, do you have any games? Like, and if so, okay. And that way you're not dealing with all of this stuff at once. You're just like, here, put me down for something and let me know. And then you can kind of gauge it. Game stores I think are super awesome for that. I don't know how to do it online. I know a lot of people play online and jump into games and I don't know how. I'm not obviously an introvert, so I don't have the greatest advice for that. I know how people do it in public around here, and that's that they go to a game store, kind of put their name in, and then just kind of feel it out from there. And I think it's okay to say like you'd like to watch a game first, if you're up for that, because you don't know if the group is crazy, or just like. I know there was these two guys that joined one of my games, and basically they tag teamed it, and that one was the extrovert, one was the introvert. So like he had he had his friend approach. He kind of hung out with them. So if you can get into a game and jump on somebody, and tag team with them and follow them to their games, that helps a lot too. Because then you don't have to be the one that starts everything. Like,
right.
My wife's an introvert. I'm definitely the lead on social encounters. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get you, Raven. And I appreciate you like hanging out with us and still coming to the games. It's really awesome of you. But yeah, I think that's if you can, a lot of these game stores have Facebooks. You could send a message through their Facebook and just do it that way. Like whatever communication method you have that you find easy to jump into, do it that way, I think.
The other thing, Raven, is to think like too, like that, especially in places like the World Walkers Discord, there's a lot of people there that are also interested and most likely in a similar situation. And if you're not, and if you're playing a game that's not streaming, the bar on the social anxiety, like, trust me, this is stressing me out, especially that my mic fell and everything. Like everything comes down a lot that you can just play and have a good time. But the more you get to know people, the more comfortable you're going to be interacting with them in any capacity.
I know one of my friends, he actually, he is a pretty big introvert and he only plays text. He doesn't play voice. He won't play voice. So I don't, he used to go on IRC and just look for that too. But, and I know like if camera is a problem, I know there's people who they just basically share their desktop and they just basically put an image up.
Yeah.
They don't ever show their camera. You can do it that way too.
Yep.
But yeah, is there anything else people want to hit us with? Do you have anything laying around? But the homebrew question for data is basically focus on your group first. You're not trying to. I think it can be a fallacy to try to balance for the world because that's too big. Like,
yeah,
just figure out what works in your group, and then also if you create something homebrew, you be very upfront. People tell people like, this is homebrew and it can and will change. Like if you want to play my class, it's cool, but you have to know ahead of time that I'm gonna make changes as I see fit.
Yeah.
I'll try and grab this. Do you have to go at 9? Is that what you said?
Yeah, soonish.
9ish, yeah. So I'll grab this last question then.
Sure.
Where do you start building a world? I don't know what other people say. There's some really good books out there that I can throw links to in Discord if you want. But my whole thing is that like I try to create a 1-sentence theme. That's why all the worlds have titles. Like it's the steam-powered world of COG. That tells me everything I know from that. Everything I do kind of plays off of that theme. The world of Fables plays off that theme. The world of the Seal, that one plays off that theme. Stuff like that. Like I know everything I need to know, but I can always, whenever I'm not sure what to do, like everything doesn't have to be about that little catchphrase, but whenever I'm in doubt, tie it back. But I just create one city. Like where do I want them to start? Create that little city or that little location, and then I put some environment around it. And then I just build. That's how everything started. So like COG started off just in Fallis. It was just the kingdom that didn't participate in the war. Menroth started on an island. Obrimo started in Northbrook. Pasmo started in a kingdom that's not there anymore. But basically, like everything starts off for me with just one location, and then I believe in building as necessary. I think that it's very easy to think like I have to get everything figured out. Like, how does the kingdom pay for its merchants? I really firmly believe in answering questions when I need to answer questions. So like, if you're that kind of writer, obviously you go for it. But I think you start with you always build off what you need and go from there.
Right.
That's my go-to. That's how yeah.
Cool.
So.
Very cool.
Yep. Well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did good.
Yeah. So I think let's see. How do you can NPCs to make begin making good ones? I usually try to think of one character like aspect that makes me happy, and then go from there. So like Tompkins is fallible. The Dream King Patch is unapproachable. I had one NPC named Nemos, and his whole thing was just that he was like martially frightening. That was like his whole thing. It's just that if you saw him in battle, it would be devastating. So I'm just trying to think of like a 2 or 3 word phrase. Actually, when I used to create races, that's what I would pick 3 words, put them in italics, put them on top, and that's how I would build all my races, like my homebrew races and stuff. I kind of do the same thing with NPCs. Like I just think of like 2-3 words that sound awesome, and then build off of there. And since part of the advantage I have is that I don't have time to make perfect NPCs because I'm running so many games, and I don't ever give myself a break. I don't ever give myself pause. So like I can do a lot on the fly stuff. Like I give them a quick little base, I play them live, and then I take notes as I play, so that like I can come back and like, all right, cool. So that character really turned into this. That character really, I see where I want to go with this story. Like I think Matt Mercer from Critical Role talks a lot about the idea that like the players never need to know how far along you are in the development of anything. Like you should feel free to ad-lib and create something brand new, and then go with it. So like I can mention like recently the stream team went up against like a hobgoblins in a big tournament. Made it all up on the fly. That whole game was just me going like, because I know enough about how
Right.
things work. Like, so that's what I believe in frameworks. I believe in is it chassis? I believe in having like a basic framework that
Mhm.
gives me the tools I need
Right.
to create everything as I go.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I also believe in the idea of like if it's for writing, giving myself those couple words and then just writing. Knowing that I'm not gonna do anything good, so that I can pull things from it.
Right.
It's the same way that I think, like when I need to think through stuff, I like talking out loud. Brian knows this because I call him up and bother him. But like I need to say stuff out loud because if it's in my head, everything sounds like a good and a bad idea. But once it exists somewhere, then I can pick and throw away and trash and hate and love things. So yeah, writing it out. I guess maybe that's the secret. Just right. I don't think I went easy on you guys. I think you guys figured out pretty fast. The stream team figured out that the hobgoblins are terrible by themselves and powerful when together. So yeah, I actually might do that at Raven. I might throw you a couple because I like thinking through things and figuring stuff out. So I might need to. But yeah, I think Johnny
Hey, you know.
but I think we're good here. Do you have anything else you want to hit?
No, I'm good. This
Cool,
has been fun.
Yeah, so I don't know how often we get to do these, but we'll definitely let you guys know when the next one comes. And starting next time, we're going to record them and throw them up as podcasts. So
And I'll try not to drop my mic on
drop
the table.
mic, be like, I'm out, but not yet. Shit, I'm sorry. But yeah, that's it for me. So thanks for joining. Thanks for as patrons, you got to see this and hear this first. So again, thank you so much for supporting the podcast, making this possible, like literally making this possible. Not like, oh, it's your no, really, like I would have a completely different life if you guys weren't letting me know that this is stuff you like and supporting and stuff like that. So yeah, you guys make this possible. So we will see you later.
Don't drink in pod.
Don't drink in pod. I wish I could. I actually, that's one thing that's weird.
Don't judge me, Johnny.
Knowing that I'll never have another sip of alcohol again is very weird.
Oh, wait. That is weird.
Yeah, I don't have enough kidneys. Oh, man. All right, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.